Hey guys, it's Matt Haycox, and today I'm going to talk to you all about remote working. What is remote working, how to remote work, how to get the best out of your employees if you're an employer, if you're an employee, how to behave properly, how to talk to your boss about being a remote worker. I'm here in Ibiza. I'm here for 3 weeks over the summer. Any of you guys that know me and follow me know that I spend a lot of my year traveling. Not specifically for work purposes, but it very much suits my lifestyle. So I thought, what better place than here to record the video? In a survey recently, 75% of employees said that they would quit their job for another job that allowed them to work remotely. 65% of employees have been seen to be more productive when working from home or working remotely. 69% of remote workers report lower absenteeism, and in the US alone, 25% of the US population already work from home part-time. Now, what actually is remote working? It may sound an obvious question, but I think it's important to understand before we get too deep into the hows and the technology and the best practices, that remote working is a very wide-reaching term, and everybody is going to have their own definitions of that. It may be part-time, it may be full-time, it may be just simply that you like to work in a coffee shop, or you like to work at home 2 days a week and 3 days in the office, or maybe like myself, you like to travel around the world, engage with clients, customers, investors in different settings. Any of you guys who follow me for a long time know that I do a similar retreat to this in the ski mountains in February, March kind of time. I get complete flexibility in my job. I love it for my lifestyle. I get to spend all the time I want with my friends, with my family, and 100% I am more effective than I would be if I was in an office environment. But that's just me. We all have our own methods, we all have our own wants and desires, and it's really key before you decide how to remote work to decide why you want to do it and what is the best setup for you. And no two people are the same, there are no right answers, and only you know that answer, so don't let anybody else tell you how your setup should be. Let's talk about why you may want to work remotely. Now, whether that's you as an employee or whether you as an employer may want to allow your staff to work from home or to work remotely. Now, obviously, one of the main points about working remotely is the flexibility that it gives you. Now, there's no right answers here, and as you watch through this video, you'll probably notice there's no right answers to most of the points. It's very much about getting a framework that suits you and making sure you use the best tools for the job. But flexibility means different things to different people. Maybe you've got a girlfriend in another town, maybe you've got a boyfriend or a husband in another country, maybe you've got kids and you need to separate the workload with your partner. Maybe you yourself want to go through some form of extra education or higher education, and being able to work away from the office environment will allow you to do that. Now, better health and wellness is a very big one when it comes to working remotely and working from home. And in today's world of needing to understand and embrace a culture of mental health awareness, this is a very important one for both employees and employers to take account of. It's been proven time and time again that workers who work remotely are happier workers, they're more engaged workers, and they've got better morale. And what's very interesting is that in recent surveys, most employees have indicated a renewed passion for their job when being allowed to work from home or work remotely. Now, as an employer, there's many other benefits too to embracing the culture of remote working and allowing your staff to work from home or to work from other locations. A very obvious one is what cost savings are available to you as a business by not needing to have a office-based workforce working from large, expensive, many of the time city centre office premises. I can tell you this firsthand as someone who went into Corona with high numbers of staff and large office footprints coming out of the Corona situation with lesser numbers of staff, smaller office footprints, a much lower infrastructure cost, and continuing to allow our staff the flexibility to work from both home and from the office. Now, before we get into how to work remotely and how to get the best from working remotely as an employee or as an employer, how to get the best from your staff, I think it's important to understand about getting the right mindset. Now, there's some big misconceptions about remote working, and one of the obvious ones is that remote workers don't work. And I tell you, from both an employer employing remote workers, and as somebody myself who works remotely, that is absolute bullshit. Yes, there's always going to be people who take advantage of any situation, but these people are going to take advantage of it if they're in a working environment, if they're sat with other staff, if they're sat with a manager. You know what, maybe they wouldn't get away with it as much if they could at home, but these people are going to get found out whether they're in the office or at home. And you probably want to check out some of my other videos about recruitment and how to get the best from your staff in general, because if you have problems with disengaged staff, and if you've got problems with people taking advantage of their working environment, then that is a different issue to remote working in itself, and something that we can look at fixing in some of my other videos. So it's important to have the right mindset and understand that working remotely is okay. It doesn't make you lazy. It's not a reason to allow people to laugh at you or think that you're less effective or less of an employee or less of a business person. It's simply about having self-awareness, about understanding what you want and what you don't want, and setting your lifestyle up accordingly. So I'm going to take you inside now, and we're going to show you my remote working space where I'm working from here in Ibiza over the summer. And we're going to talk about some of the tools and technology that are not just important, but essential for being able to work remotely. Because if you haven't got the right tools, you're going to be pushing water uphill from the start. So here we are in my remote working space in Ibiza. And I guess that's an appropriate time to talk about the importance of having the right setup when you're working remotely or when you're working from home. It's very important to carve out a specific area where you're going to work from. If you have enough space at home, then you want to make yourself a little study. If you don't have enough space, then maybe there's an area in a bedroom or an area in the kitchen or the dining room where you can set yourself out. It's really important that that area is considered the work zone, and that your family or your roommates or your kids or anybody else who you live with knows that that's where you work, and that it's to be treated like an office and you're not to be disturbed there. It's also, I think, very important that you dress right when you're working from home. Now, you may be laughing watching this, thinking Matt sat inside wearing a pink cap and a t-shirt, and he shouldn't even be wearing a cap inside the house, never mind inside the office. But as anyone who's followed me recently knows, I am hiding the results of a very dodgy Corona haircut. But in all seriousness, what I mean by that is, it's important to get up in the morning, and even if you're going to be working from home, know that you are going to go to work. Now, maybe for some of you, you should get up and take a walk around the block. I mean, I know a lot of you guys will probably having exercise featuring as part of your regularly daily schedule anyway. But even if you're not, I think it's important to get up, go and get some fresh air. Like I say, run around the block and then come home, take a shower and put some work clothes on. And even if your work clothes are your jeans and t-shirt, that's fine. But get out of your pajamas. Go and sit at your desk and concentrate properly. You know, do not be that stereotype meme of the person sat on the sofa wearing the pajamas, watching YouTube whilst pretending to tap around on the laptop. So once we've got the right setting, it's essential that we have the right tools and the right technology to be able to do the job with. Now, in today's world, most of us work off laptops, off iPads, off telephones. And for all of you guys watching this, you will all have different jobs and different tools that you need for your jobs. But I think it's important when working remotely, probably even more so than when you're in the office, to make sure you've got the best possible tools for the job. You don't want anything that's going to slow you down. That crusty laptop from 8 years ago, that knackered telephone with a smashed screen. Now is the time to invest properly in this and make sure you've got tech that is going to allow you to be as effective as possible whilst working from home. Extensions of tech that are quite important, I think, are things like headphones, microphones. You may not think of these as immediately necessary or immediately important, but as we'll come on to in a minute, a lot of working remotely and working from home is all about how you communicate with other people whilst you are working at home. These things are going to make the whole experience for you so much better and allow you to get the most out of communicating with other people and working from home. Another one that may be almost too obvious to think initially is Wi-Fi. Now, we all have Wi-Fi, we all have access to some kind of 4G in today's world, but is it good enough for you to work from home, or is it good enough for you to work remotely? I can tell you this is something I actually experienced firsthand yesterday. We've got Wi-Fi here in the villa in Ibiza. It's been more than adequate for us to work with insofar as, we've been able to do emails, we've been able to communicate with people. But I was supposed to record a couple of podcasts yesterday, and unfortunately the Wi-Fi connection here has just not been good enough. We had to stop the podcast and reschedule them for some time when I'm back in England or when I've got better Wi-Fi connection. So if I'm looking to stay here for an extended period of time, it will be essential that I get that fixed. And all of you guys watching this are probably going to have some kind of similar problem. So make sure you've got the best possible Wi-Fi connection. There's nothing worse and there's nothing more unprofessional than jittery graphics, than calls dropping, than not being able to do your job properly. Now, when you're working from home or when you're working remotely, it's essential, whether you're an employee or an employer, to have the right methods of communication. Now, all of you are probably going to have your own different variants on what suits you best or what suits your team best. There's plenty of places you can find different tech to communicate with. Now, I know what works for me and I know what doesn't work for me. And just a couple of things by way of example. I'm a massive fan of a tool called Slack. I always describe Slack as WhatsApp on steroids. It's basically a tool that you can have on your telephone, you can have on your laptop, and allows you to create groups and to communicate individually with team members. It's got the ability to transfer files, to send graphics, to create groups, to have private conversations, to invite people. And I'm not saying that is the only option or the right option. That's an option that works for me. But some of the kind of functionality that I get from a tool like that is something that you must certainly find for when you're communicating with your staff or your team members. Now, I think when working remotely or working from home, communicating via video is essential. You may not like it and you may feel uncomfortable with it, but I think this is something that you've got to try and get used to as soon as possible. And like anything, the more you do it, the easier it becomes, the better you get at it. But I think when you're not interacting with people face to face or physically in an office, I think it's essential that you get some FaceTime communication, on whether it's on a Microsoft Teams or a tool like Zoom or just using FaceTime on your iPhone. You're going to get a better rapport and ultimately you're going to be able to build better relationships with people. So if you don't like it, start practicing now. Practice with family members, practice with friends, and then start making office calls. I guarantee you that most of the people that you're trying to communicate with are probably having exactly the same thoughts and fears that you are. So don't worry, you can make a joke about it when you first get on the phone with each other to break the ice, and I'm sure in a couple of weeks' time you'll wonder why you even worried about it in the first place. Now, whilst talking about communication, it's very important to schedule regular communication with your team members, whether that's daily, weekly, hourly, whatever is appropriate to you, you will know best. But don't just let phone calls happen. Schedule them in your diary. Even if you've got nothing specific to talk about, schedule those calls anyway and keep the communication going. Keep the rapport, keep the camaraderie. Even if you're just going to have social conversations, make sure people know you exist. Make sure the people that you want to talk to feel that they still exist, and build relationships as good as you would do if you were physically in an office or any other working environment with them. So there you have it, guys. I hope you enjoyed my video on remote working, what it is, how to do it, how to get the best from yourself and from your staff. And as you can see in the background, this is the benefits of remote working for me. So I'm going to go away and enjoy it. If you like this video, make sure you like it and please subscribe to my channel. I've got plenty more content like this of how to get the best out of your business, how to get the best out of your life. I'll see you again soon.